retreating is a good tactic. If you feel like, I'm in a situation here, or like I've took on too much too soon, or like, this is ego here, where I'm just like, I've been in the past where I've been in a situation where like, after work, I'm trying to do it, I try to prove myself, and just like, I can do this, I can do it, and then suddenly you're in a situation like, I took too much on. Like, for me, that's not quitting, that's retreating. Then to go, you know what, I need to retreat here. It's not like quit, I'm going to come again.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Reflective Coach podcast with Coach Luca. In this week's episode, I was lucky enough to have mindset coach Rhodri Jones on the platform. It was great to have Rhodri on the podcast. We have been connected on socials for some time before. I was then lucky enough to hear him talk in person, and then alluding from that conversation led to him being on the podcast, which I am truly grateful for. Rhodri is a mindset coach who looks at the support and psychology of professional athletes, ex-professionals, youngsters, individuals across many different industries, so whether that's from business, teaching, various aspects of education. There is a wide range of individuals that Rhodri works with, and it's all about that mindset and the way that they approach their thinking, those strategies, their well-being, how they might realign their mindset, how they might focus on one purpose, and how they go about progressing, how he then goes about approaching any hiccups that they've had or any negatives that have come back their way, and how he can overcome these bumps in the road. It was great to talk to Rhodri because as we had discussions in person before and I've heard him talk, he has had so much background experience, and he was actually a performance director in terms of being in TV and having that background. He was a professional athlete himself coming through the ranks, and that is an incredible story in itself, and I know Rhodri has spoken about that many times. But in this episode we talked with Rhodri and we talked about devotion to the craft. So that craft that we're on about, whether you're a professional athlete, is about how you can go about developing that, making the most of the purpose, making the most of the platform, making the most of the experiences, and how that can really move forward. And that comes up around 54 minutes into this episode, and it's a great aspect to really take in consideration and listen to about how Rhodri further goes into this. And one thing that's really stood out from a conversation in person, which was then brought up again within this conversation on this episode, and something that I was talking about last night actually with someone, was spinning too many plates. As much as we want to gain experiences, especially as we want to grow within our craft and grow within the industry, and sometimes, especially when you're a sports coach, you want to put your finger in every pie and try and grow your platform and your network and your experience and the opportunities. Sometimes we can be spinning too many of those plates, and we're not giving enough of ourselves in one direction where we can grow and really develop through that one strand. And therefore we're splitting ourselves across many plates, and many different obstacles start appearing, and we're not giving our best all, so therefore we're spinning many plates but we're not doing it successfully. And that's something that really stands out, and that interlinks with a really good point that Rhodri made, whereby retreating can be a good thing. So sometimes taking that step back and saying no to things, we have to be a lot more confident within doing so, because that can really push us forward. Sometimes we think that no isn't going to allow us to progress or move forward, or can be a hindrance to us sometimes, but sometimes saying no can be the bigger picture, and sometimes the better decision that can be led in a certain direction. And therefore Rhodri then talked about being equipped to step away, having that time and dedication, living life on your terms. I absolutely love that quote from Rhodri, and it's such a good one that stood out in terms of that. We talked about sixth gear, and how this can actually change as we're on that journey and that platform, and sometimes getting into sixth gear can be a good thing, and then living life on that term, and it's then how we then balance to make sure we stay within that frame, or stay within the complete area that we find ourselves as we've grown to get there. We talked about zones of intensity, where you currently are as a person, intention to sense what's around us and what's going on, We talked about ego and interlinked with professional snooker player Ronnie O'Sullivan in terms of his experiences and what we've seen from the outset, and how Rhodri has seen this from a mindset performance aspect. And we talked about being detached from our ego where possible. So sometimes we can see that Ronnie is slumped down in his chair, he's switched off from things, he's keeps saying that snooker's not the most important thing to him, and he has a massive ego within snooker because of his accolades, his experience, his platform, his network, his appearance, everything that comes into question when we look at professional athletes, especially within their environment, and as they're geared to be tooted up as the ones who are going to win the tournaments because of their experience and platform, etc. But being detached from that ego can be a really good thing and positive mindset, where we can really dub things down and take away some of the pressures that come attached to that. And therefore then that interlinks once again with unattached to the outcome, which is a really key indicator of how we can look towards outcomes, but we can make ourselves unattached, so take away that emotion and take away our pressures that are linked around it. And there's a lot more as this goes on, and that links with the workplace mindset, and that's actually a book which Rhodri brought up, and something that I'm going to look into further, and something that you should as well. And one thing that we talked about was fear of the unknown. That can be really difficult to have within the world, within ourselves, and I know that's something that plays on my mind every day, and plays a big factor in terms of my thinking, my approach, and how I consider the outcomes. But it was so great to talk to Rhodri. I'm so thankful to have him on. This was a discussion whereby we ended up, I started the recording, and then Rhodri at one point said, just let me know when you want to start, and we just got talking and straight into the mindset without me actually having to utilise the structure or many questions that I had for him. And it was just a great discussion late at night. It was another thing that he booked in, so I'm so grateful for the time that he put in, especially later at night when he's been working all day and it takes out that family time. But it was great, and this could have gone on for so much longer, but this time that we have in this episode is really one worth listening to, and I really enjoyed it. And there was a discussion, as I said, but one that provoked so many thoughts, so much thinking, so many considerations, aspects, outcomes, steps to move forward, how to break things away myself. And there is a lot that I can continue to consider that I've had a discussion with Rhodri in person that I continue to do every day and want to do better at. This was a fantastic episode, and I hope you look at what Rhodri does across his social media platform in terms of LinkedIn being his primary one, and you can find him on the web. Just type in his name, you can come across his website, Rhodri Jones Coaching. You can look at his experiences, look at what he does every day, look at the platform and services that he offers. You can listen to other podcast episodes on other platforms, which is great, but he is certainly one that I advocate listening to and trying to learn as much from as possible. It was great to have Rhodri on, and I know I've spoken to many people about this episode for a number of weeks, and it's finally here, and I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have, or enjoyed it as much as I did. And this is a great episode. But you can find the Reflective Coach podcast on our social media channels, so that's Spotify, Podcast Addict, Anchor, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitter. It's at TRC Podcast _ on Twitter. It is the Reflective Coach podcast everywhere else. I'm Anthony _ Luca 96 on Twitter, and I hope you drop a follow, drop a like, drop a subscribe. It's always really appreciated, and I hope the platform continues to grow so we can have further guests on. But right now, this week's episode focuses on mindset coach Rhodri Jones. Have a great one. I hope to see you soon. Enjoy, and have a bit of paper ready to make many notes. This is a great episode. Good, it's nice to see you.
Nice to see you too, yeah. When was that thing? It was back in... Was it September? Or
yeah, I think just about September, if not just before.
Yeah. How are things going on your end?
Yeah, good mate. Busy, really busy, because since then I've started a new job. So I'm at a secondary school now in another school close to where I was. So yeah. I'm in charge of behaviour, inclusion. So it's quite interesting to go from a different school and see the different dynamics, different leadership, and certainly to see the different environment in terms of the way that the kids approach learning. So it's definitely been an eye-opener, but it's one that I feel that I can really have a great impact for, and that's why I'm really looking forward to talking to you, because there's a lot that I'm doing every day which relates a lot to what you do every day.
Yeah. You've got that interest, haven't you, in that side of things? And
Yeah, absolutely. It's really interesting to, see the approach of the people that you work with, how that might change over time, how, it might change my approach and, changing that complete environment to really create those aspirations in those young people which are lacking at the minute.
yeah. What in terms of what, like, the aspirations in terms of what's stopping them?
I think there's a lot of factors, a lot of external, a lot of internal factors. I think obviously COVID has had a knock-on effect where they've been at home learning, and whether that's been an aspiration to really try and push forward or hindered their inspiration or approach to learning focus.
Yeah,
Whether the environment has changed in terms of the school itself, the approach, leadership, where it's come out of special measures and now moved into a good place. It's then had a new head. So it's been, for those students that go through COVID then to a school where it's been through special measures, a new school built, then they've changed head 3 times. And some of these kids have been in, 5 years and have been through quite a lot. And then those who have just started, there's quite a lot to take in for them. So I can completely understand, in contrast to coming from a school where it's been ingrained for quite a long time to a school that's in a lot of transition.
yeah.
So it's quite interesting.
Uncertainty, probably, it's like we're scanning all the time to see if we're safe in our environment, and if you don't feel safe, if you feel like, oh yeah, I'm not sure my place is, that isn't unfair.
Of course, and there's so much change this year. New staff coming in, new provisions like myself, new head, teachers coming and going, different changes to behaviour systems. Different expectations, parents being called in when they weren't usually, perhaps, building being changed and altered, their schedule, their timetabling. So it's a lot to have taken in just from the time when I started. I've only been there 3 months, but for them, obviously being a young person, to have such change in a 3 month, but to come back in September with a complete new head, etc., it's a lot of change.
Are you enjoying it though?
Oh yeah, really enjoying it. It's different every day, and it's great to work with those young people who might not have those role models, or to try and give them that consistency and really support them and try and build off what my experience and where I've been into where I am now. So yeah, I'm loving it, really loving it.
Oh, good mate. No, I'm glad that you're enjoying it.
Yeah, because sometimes it's hard because as we discussed back, when we were together in September, I had that certainty in life for the first time. I had an actual permanent job and I had uni, so it was a nice fit in terms of heading towards uni for a few years and being a young person. It was a nice settled job to have. But now, I got a lot more stress. I'm working a little bit later. I'm accountable for a lot more. You're taking on all the pressures around you. If a young person doesn't perform, then it's on you in that respect, and then you take on the feelings of them, and then when they open up about themselves. So, in realistic terms, I could have gone, do you know what, I don't need or want all of that, but, I've gone into it, but I'm completely enjoying it for exactly what it is, because sometimes it can be hard to jump into something going, do you know what, that might be good, knowing that you've got something that you really love, and it doesn't always work out if you take that jump, but, this one is one that I'm really enjoying, so.
There's always that, I work with people who are like, that fear of the unknown, and it's weird, but obviously you didn't have that. It's like a lot of people will stay in a situation that doesn't serve them, as opposed to the fear of the unknown of a future that would serve them better. It's weird how that can be crippling for some.
Well, absolutely, and you can see it for the kids. They've had situations which serves them. They come to school, they get on with it, and then when it sort of changes in terms of that aspect, that dynamic every day where they have different timetables, different expectations, behaviour, and then they're being held accountable and having to take ownership for those bad decisions which they were allowed to get away with previously. It's challenged them mentally, but I think it's obviously a positive challenge to move forward. But it's how we then address that here and now as well to try and improve that. So it's really interesting.
Oh, good. No, it sounds like I can tell you've got the energy when you're talking about it and stuff. So it sounds like you're passionate about it.
Absolutely, yeah, and it just shows. We never hire. We might have an opportunity to get someone like yourself in to talk to them.
Yeah, it's a weird thing really, because like, obviously it's the one-to-one work that I love doing. So I don't really like see, like when I did that tour, it was like Kashar knows me, and but I really enjoy doing that stuff. But it's the one-to-one stuff that I really like. That's just my personality, and some people that hate doing the one-to-one stuff, but yeah, I just feel like I can focus more on just that one person in front of me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not someone who's seeking the group stuff, but I'm passionate about what I do. So sometimes I'm like, yeah, if the right opportunity comes along, yeah.
Yeah, because that sort of relates to me. Years ago, when I first started, I'd done a lot of one-to-one stuff, and it was out of my experience zone, and something that I didn't enjoy when I first done it, because when you work one-to-one with people and you might lack a bit of confidence in yourself, or you lack that ability of small talk, when you sat with them for an hour, or especially a disengaged young person, you can be watching the time going, I can't wait for this session to end. But a lot of what I do every day now is literally one-to-one, or literally 3 or 4 kids, and try and get through to them. So
do you prefer like the 3 or 4? Do you prefer a little group, or?
Well, some days we get 1, some days we get 3 or 4, but where I am now, I wouldn't go, I prefer the 3 or 4, I would prefer the 1. I absolutely love working in that small little group because I can get through to them, but sometimes when I've got that one-to-one, you can open up so much more and really delve into that conversation. But yeah, 3, 4, 1, I'm at that position where I can look back and go, do you know what, I can approach being one-to-one with a kid and spend now like 4 or 5 hours with them, compared to having that 1 hour like 5 or 6 years ago, which I hated because I wasn't confident to go in. You know what? I look forward to tomorrow doing it if I got one again.
Yeah, I think it's a case of like getting out your own way. Sometimes it's just like it's not about making it about the other person. Once you kind of like, because it's like when I'm coaching people and stuff, it's like, you'll have like that thing that comes into your head, oh, they should be doing this, you should be doing that, and you're like, kind of, I've got to like center myself, because you're kind of like, because it's not my place to tell. Like, even if someone goes like, oh, what would you do? I'm like, I think we're quick to, how it is. Like, yeah, you'll probably notice more when you hear conversations of like people waiting for their chance to speak, and they're not actually listening fully to the person they're speaking to. It's like people are waiting to like see. They're taking what someone else says and how it links to them.
Yeah.
Or, and they're trying to come in. Like I've got that part. Like obviously when I'm coaching, I've got to be. You got to be really wary. It's like, the judgment can come up when you're like, it's like, and then you kind of just let it go. It's a skill as same as anything. But I think, the more you do the one-to-one stuff, like, the more you notice conversations around you where people aren't really listening to each other.
That's it, really. You can speak to some kids and you get through to them because you're breaking down that wall and you're getting into something that they may feel uncomfortable about, or you've touched a nerve and it's then got them thinking about it, which has been great. But you can you can see kids listening, and you can see some kids obviously switch off. But well, they're high school age, so they'll be 11 to 16. But I have a link meeting every 2 weeks with my line manager. And sometimes we're just well, I've only had 2 so far, but we were talking Monday, and I can just see her not registering what I've been saying to her. So it's literally, she's taking in the first bit, but then I've said something, I was like, right, that's quite an important point, but it's literally bounced, hit her forehead, gone in one ear and swooped straight out, and I'm like, you haven't understood maybe the context or the actual detail of it, because she's too busy thinking about the last bit, or she's thinking about the next bit in terms of what she's processing. So since going into this job and working a lot more with senior leaders, the biggest thing I've noticed is that they just don't listen to the pure detail, and then it really resonates with me, the attention to detail, for example.
what attention to detail in terms of
how they perceive it, or how they're listening and might not have responded to a point that was made, or something that I may have felt was critical. They've either brushed past on it, or they haven't taken it in that sense.
Yeah, no, I understand. Yeah, it's a common thing. I can't say I try not to do it when I'm coaching and stuff, but like when I'm with my wife sometimes, I'll be like she's halfway through a sentence. I'm like, I'm in trouble here. I'm not here any of this. And he kind of like, shall I just be honest and say, I wasn't listening, or shall I just like go like, yeah, just edging the bet. But it's like it's just listening's a skill. Listen, people aren't used to listening fully to someone, not just like what they're saying, the energy and the intuition about, it's like when I'm working with people and like, they're talking about like what really lights you up, and like just talking to you, like you see the energy and like, it's challenging stuff, but you've got the bit between your teeth. But like people will have that energy and then they'll come back like, but it's not too bad or whatever, and you're like, there's a but there.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's like it's resistance. A lot of it is fear and hold a lot of people back. Confidence. I think like the more you work in this space, everyone's winging it. Like everyone thinks like, I'm gonna get found out, or it's just the mind. It's just like that's what it does. It's like trying to keep you safe. It's like, oh god, there's a little bit of that. It's good. It keeps you on your toes. I think it's like, but not if it's like debilitating and you've got zero belief in yourself or anything like that. But it's a weird one because it's like everyone puts on a mask a little bit, and then 2-3 questions you can get underneath that. It's that's what I say, like most people you think like who being vulnerable and stuff is like, it's because they're probably not so attached to the ego anymore, so they're kind of like but you can be vulnerable in a different way though. You can be vulnerable as in like I was coaching someone today, and he's like vulnerable as like I'm doing like he's doing like keynote speaking. He's going, I'm going to smash it. And that's vulnerable to say that. It's like some rugby players I work with, they'll go like, I'm not being funny, and I don't appear like full of myself, but I believe in myself. I'm like, you don't need to justify your belief in yourself to me. It's just like, you got so much noise out of you. Like, people trying, what you have as well is like people who are trying to, play big and stuff. So it's like, it can be a mirror to other people around. So it's like, it's easier to be destructive than create. It's like on Twitter, it's easy to like be judgmental of someone and stuff, and then I think I put a post the other day about Gavin Price up, and it's just like, you have a real mixture of comments, and I'm like, most of you wouldn't be able to handle that. Like
it's true.
Wouldn't be able to handle it. It's like, oh yeah, no, he gives as good as he gets and whatever. And yeah, there's an element to that, but like, yeah, it's and it's the whole thing. Like, they earn a lot of money and stuff. I'm like, yeah, but I don't know. Like, I don't think money comes into your psychology at a certain moment. So it's like, it's a weird one, really.
Absolutely, yeah. And what relates there is the biggest one that, the most interesting sports person I think to watch is Ronnie O'Sullivan. Not just because of his technical skill on the table, but even when he's in his chair, or how he approaches things, or his responses when he's you know, at the end having a Q&A or doing the interview, etc. And he's like, oh, I just play for a bit of fun today. But then underneath, he's like, do you know what? I actually want to win the Masters. I want to beat Stephen Hendry. I want to get these records. But he's sort of changed that outlook and approach of going, I have to win it, or I want to win it, to, yeah, I'm just going to play for fun now.
Yeah, it's a really powerful thing, that is. It's like Tyson Fury is similar, where it's like, yeah, he's, you know, he wants to win and everything, but like, I think he's quoted before, he said, I don't care about leaving a legacy, but that's just ego. It's just like, I love to fight, like, and he's tried to step away, and he, you know, mentally it's not good for him. And I think, like, you know, Ronnie O'Sullivan like threatens, you know, you always think like, oh, actions speak louder than words, like Ronnie O'Sullivan like threatened to quit something, oh, you know, I just lost the love, and I think he just does it to amuse himself. But it's a powerful place to operate from, where you kind of, you're unattached to outcome. You know, obviously, I say that, no, I don't think anyone's ever unattached to outcome completely, but there's an element of where you're like, oh, fuck it, a little bit. Like, you know, you can kind of just play for that's what, like, sometimes just bringing all your attention to your senses is just fully where you are, instead of thinking like, you know, what's going to happen next. It's like Rafa Nadal, like, probably, you know, obviously, well, he's the most successful in terms of victories and stuff. You know, he says, like, our biggest enemy's the voice in my head. He said, not only when it's like, yeah, chirping up, like, oh God, like, it's not all well, and blah, 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 you get found out. And he says, like, it can work the other way, when you're like, oh, I'm going to win. Like, you're thinking with me with holding the trophy up, and then suddenly you're just away from the moment in front of you. I mean, that's what, like, stuff like mindfulness and stuff does. It's just there's nothing like woo or anything. It's just like, where's your attention? Knowing where your attention is at any point, that's it. You know, and you know, it's like, and that mindfulness is noticing it, being aware of, like, oh, I'm drifting there. You know, it's like, it's not about like trying to be present all the time, because I think that's possible. You know, like, the mind's like letting it back and forth all the time, but it's just like having that awareness of like, do you want to live? It's trying to increase the percentage of like of life where you are now, because otherwise you get to the end of your life, you're like, oh, I was living in the future and back, and never actually just fully where I was. And I think, you know, it's difficult because there's so many distractions out there. You know, it's like, and we're not designed to, I don't know, well, it's only going to go faster in terms of like what's being thrown at us, and we're not designed to have, like, our brains aren't. So it's like, you know, it's up to you then to have that discipline to slow yourself down. It's like, you know, I know we're going on, and I know we haven't started yet, but you recording, yeah?
Yes, mate. I can just clip bits out, look.
Oh, right, yeah, you are recording. All right, yeah.
Yeah, just in case I miss something good.
It's like, I don't know if you've come across a guy called David Goggins. He's like probably one of the most extreme mindsets that I've ever come across. He's like an ex-Navy SEAL, but he's an ultra runner. And even he says, like, you can't be in that sixth gear, like that full out all the time. It's like zones of intensity. So he says when he's not doing these intense stuff, he doesn't think about it. Like, he's completely where he is at different moments. And I think it's this idea of like, it's knowing when to shift the gears. But I think what you have some people is they don't realise they've got a sixth gear. They don't realise they're maybe like coasting a bit, or, you know, you have that person who, it's difficult, you know, like, if you're just like foot on the accelerator the whole time, it's like, you can feel, you know, it's probably habitual then, and then you're trying to shift the gears down, and then you're like, it can feel like uncomfortable, because your mind's like, oh, this is a waste of time. I should be filling this, so I should be doing something. And so I don't think like rest isn't the opposite of performance; it's complementary to it. But I think a lot of people don't know how. I think like a lot of people will rest thinking, I'll just watch TV or whatever, and you're switching off to a degree, but you're not like resting in the, you're not processing stuff there. It's like it kind of is. It's escapism in a way, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's just like, it's having those moments of just like silence, just to like, so you can just see what's coming up with you, and like, sometimes you just have those moments. Sometimes you have like when you're in the shower and stuff, you're not thinking. It's like you're just daydreaming and stuff comes into your head and stuff. And that's like a kind of a meditation in a way. Just open attention is like where you just don't do anything, don't try and meditate anything, and then you just see what comes up. And then I say to people is like, when you sit down for half hour, right? You've got no idea what thoughts are going to come up. Yeah, but you're trying to predict what thoughts are going to come up, and then I'm like, write down like what thoughts you think are going to come up and what do come up. And it's just like you have some crazy memory that just pops into your head. And you're like, why is that coming there? So I think there's an idea then of like, don't have to listen to every thought that comes into your head, because it's not like you're there consciously thinking about every thought, but it's like the thoughts are popping up, and it's that moment where you go, does this thought enrich me or not? And am I going to act on that thought? It's like you don't listen to every bark a dog makes, and it's the same with the mind, But I think what it is we're not really educated about the mind, and then what you have is you have people who've had really traumatic experiences, and it's you run in that loop in your head of just being in that emotional part of the brain and memories and trauma and stuff. But then you've got people who are pushing themselves, and then you come up against that resistance, that little that little voice that goes, this is you're not going to get found out here, or I'm not sure, and those little doubts, and it's just the mind, like the mind always quits before the body, so sometimes it's like not listening to it straight away, and then you kind of like just tap into the body a bit more, and you can always go a little bit further, I think. And I talk from experience, I've had moments, I've had like, I was a professional footballer and had to retire, so it's like probably mentally flexible, being able to return quite a few times from long-term injuries. But like I was making life really hard for myself and just like beating myself up. And I see it now, like people are just beating themselves up all the time, and I'm like, there's a difference between beating yourself up and being demanding of yourself. There's a room to, you have to be demanding of yourself at certain times, but when you're like beating yourself up, you kind of, it's like what I describe is like, imagine a little kid coming up to you, because that's a part of that brain, that mind that's like, oh, you're gonna get found out or whatever, or oh God, I don't know if I want to do this today. It's like if your little child come up to you and goes, oh, I'm not sure, and I feel uncertain and fearful. You're not gonna you're gonna put your arm around the child. Now, if he's doing it all the time, then you might like go be a bit more stern with the child.
Yeah.
But I think that's why acceptance and kind of welcoming everything comes in. And people sometimes misconstrue that as acceptance as a kind of like a giving up or something, but it isn't like that. It's just kind of like not letting you hold you back. You can have those. You've got different parts of you in your head, and it's not feeding. It's like you've got. I think what you have is like people like don't want to show that side of themselves. It's like the shadow side of you, the part that's feeling resentful and stuff. But it's not like not acknowledging it, but it's like, where do you want to operate from? Because like, you could hold a resentment for over someone for like 30 years or whatever, like some people do, and then you're suffering, and that other person you feel resentful for might be, completely fine and getting on with their life, and you're like suffering yourself. And I know it's like, that's different if someone's comes from a really traumatic experience and stuff, but it's the same with a lot of people. It's how you respond, and trying to kind of live life on your terms a little bit, and you get, as far as I'm aware, you get this one shot at life, and you don't want to be spending it all just like beating yourself up and then and not taking those chances, and and putting limitations on yourself, and then like getting to the end of it all and going, I wish I'd done that thing, and I wish I'd enjoyed it more, which I have a lot. I have these conversations with ex players. I kind of survived it a bit. That love that can bring you to sport. You can let external factors and stress and pressures get in the way, and I think that's something where you kind of have to have like some kind of reminder to yourself every day of like raising your energy. And that's something you can do yourself. It's just like, why am I doing what I'm doing and stuff? Because you can lose that sometimes in any profession. So I think it's looking at what you can control and kind of raising your own electricity, as opposed to like not taking charge of that, and then you're just waiting for stuff to happen to make you feel good. And it's like, it's something like you haven't really got ownership of that sometimes, because like, all you've got really is the ability to regulate yourself, and you can do that in any way. I know cold showers is a thing with like cold therapy, in terms of just getting, I was speaking to someone earlier, and they said like, they started doing like cold water swimming in the sea and feel really good throughout the day. And it's like, but it doesn't have to be like that. It's like, it can be like dancing, it can be like singing, anything that just raises your energy up, like breath work, having some kind of I've got like playlists and stuff, and I record my voice doing like my own like commandments to myself, because I was like going through a period, I don't feel the same, where you're reeling out quotes from other people, because it's like, it's more uncomfortable, like, one, listening to yourself, and two, it's like, oh, these are my words now, and like I've got to live to those words, and then as opposed to like you can reel out some quote from some, and I've done this in the past, like some philosophers or some footballers, and you kind of like, you're hiding behind other people's quotes instead of living your own.
Well, and there's so much there, Rhodri. I love sitting listening to you, and this is why I was keen to get you on. And I was just making little notes, because there's so much there which you could have pulled up on. Sixth gear, I think it's great when you give that sort of analogy to things, and that can change, and it's open to change, because I'm on a uni course, as you know, and one of the students I've known for quite a long time, and he said that he always remembered me for being relentless, and that's resonated with me since. And he said it about 4 months ago, and it's something that I still reflect on now. And I'm like, am I as relentless as I was back then? And I'm like, no, I've changed that, because I've changed my mindset to switch off a little bit more, to go, right, just slow down a little bit, breathe. And that's where it was really important, because I was always living my life in the future going vision, 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 and I still am a bit now, and it's hard to switch off, because unless I've got that sort of strategy now, where I've integrated a sort of strategy for myself last year, I've ended up achieving a lot more goals last year, which has allowed me to personally grow. and sort of do this kind of stuff, because speaking to people is probably one of my biggest flaws in a big social context. I hate it. Whereas my granddad, he's got like the gift of the gab. He can go in and he'll chat to anyone, and suddenly the whole room is eclipsed to him. And that's something which I was like, do you know what? I wish I had that. So I would never have sort of done this a couple of years ago, but this is the kind of thing that I'm really enjoying. And compared to coaching, which has always been my passion, I'm at a point now going, I'm enjoying the podcast more than I'm actually coaching, because it's great. You're networking, you're learning. I'm bringing out natural confidence in myself. And I'm like, my sit skewer has naturally changed because I'm slowing down a little bit in other elements, but then I'm focused on what I need to do in the here and now, where I'm really enjoying, life. It's 8:15. You said let's get a call then. Realistically, I could have gone, do you know what? I'm finished for the day, Rhodri. I'd rather switch off at this point. But for me, it's like, do you know what? It's great. I'll catch up with you now. Then I'll, might go off and have a shower. Then I might just slow my night down. But it's maximising on that time where I've got that great opportunity to speak to you and go and continue to build a platform of learning and everything in my head, where I'm taking bits away and going, do you know what? That was another great hour and a half, or whatever it'll be, of really, maximising a bit more of my time. And that's the importance of living in the here and now. But there's so many different elements. Is again, living life on your own terms. If you're coaching, it's dictated to you. You have to be at the sessions when the kids are there, and you're there to try and progress yourself. But I'm at a point now where I'm going, I don't need to be coaching 24/7. I don't need to be bending myself over backwards for every session that I felt that I had to put on previously. I'm like, right, our game's got postponed Sunday, so I'm like, don't have to put on a game. Could just have that bit of a breather now.
Oh, brilliant! Sounds like you're, I can tell you're just in a good place, and you feel like it sounds like you've got a balance that kind of works for you. Speaking to you, the drive hasn't gone anywhere else, but it's like you drive. You just got a bigger picture around the drive, whereas a lot of people are head down, just driving and not taking it in. It's a skill, It's like some of anything. It's like that's the one thing that's the one danger of setting goals, is where you can kind of get too zoned in on a goal and you forget about enjoying the journey, or you don't take it in, or you can get so fixated on a goal and you might be on the journey, and then you're like, oh, but something's pulling me somewhere else. Oh no, but I've set this goal, but this is pulling you, this is compelling, and it's having that awareness of sometimes it's it's having some kind of direction in life, because if you jump in the car, you're not just driving around aimlessly. But it's and I think the danger is sometimes as well with a lot of goals is people set stuff that's external to them, instead of saying oh, my goal is to be the person who writes half an hour every day or whatever, or the person who does this training or stuff, and then the more you can kind of just stuff that's totally within your control, and then because you could do you could set a goal, let's say now I want to win it, I don't know, say win a cap for your country, and then you get to the manager just doesn't fancy you, and then you could have had another manager who does fancy you and would have capped you, and you've achieved your goal. And but you could be you could be even better player, but you got a manager who doesn't fancy you, doesn't cap you, and then I didn't achieve my goal. It's but yeah, I think you have to have kind of, especially there's so much noise out there, that you have to be your own book of wisdom as well, in terms of you have, and in that book of wisdom, no one wants to read a chapter, but no one wants to read a book where someone's had no adversity or anything. You don't see a film where you got the protagonist is just he's had no jeopardy, no challenge or anything. But what I'd say is a lot of that stuff, especially if you lean into your edges, stuff might not come off, and that relentless side, you might like start losing it, not because you're consciously slowing down, it's just because you're letting things chip away at you. But yeah, it's I think I think it's that courage is just to be able to just front up and live what works for you. I like work with people, and everyone knows intuitively what works for them, but they like let other people dictate, and they let a lot of noise get in there, and they start getting conditioned and limitations, and some people around you like might try and pull you down. It's like because it can be triggering for some people, seeing someone who's sure about them, sure about what their boundaries are, sure about what lights them up. It can be difficult. Even I work with young athletes, and I'm blown away by like how clear they are, and on what works for them. I think people do know deep down, but then you kind of like you start trusting other people's authority and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, like everyone's looking through their own different lenses of the world, and yeah, there is that element of like taking advice, but it's got to be from someone you really respect, and someone you like really trust and admire, and and it might be direct at times, but the problem is sometimes you'll like take on board direct advice from people you don't. They got your best interests at heart, or you really respect that person, and do they live their own truth, and do they deliver integrity to themselves? It's like there's so much opinion out there, I think, and you go on like Twitter and stuff. It's like it's so easy to be destructive as opposed to create, because it's like, to destruct something takes no time, it's just easy to destruct something, but if you create something, it takes time, it takes work, and takes dedication and stuff, and yeah, it's a weird one, but I'm not sure. I think a lot of people are in survival mode, and that a lot of stuff's going on. I think, but the only difficulty is when you're in survival mode is you can get very like narrow vision, all about me, and you see it a lot where you like people won't just take the time just to make little conversations with people, just like I've got a chance there just to this, just by being like curious, considerate, that might light that person's day up, and then you can, it does count those little interactions you have, and I think rather than just looking at like what can I get from this person, which let's be honest, a lot of that goes on where you kind of like, but it didn't. Life never feels as, in my experience, when you start like approaching life going like, what can I get like from it all the time without like giving back and stuff, it just doesn't feel as rewarding. It feels like quite lonely being like that, where you're kind of like all about serving your own ego as opposed to maybe like looking beyond it at times. But yeah, it's a difficult one. There's no like book about how to live your life and stuff, and you kind of just got to try and follow your own path. It's like that's all you've got really, and it's like someone goes like you could have the best intentions in the world, and something you might go for might not come off. There's no guarantee. Like people always say like, oh well, yeah, you'll get what you deserve. It's not always, but it's like that ability. Just you talk about being relentless, and how much does it mean to you? Sometimes it's like that's not. I think, if I'm being honest, like most people who, it's a fine line. Most people who master stuff, you have to have a little bit of obsessiveness. You have to have that. You have to have that drive. You have to have that kind of ability just to, whether that's like developing some kind of alter ego, like, you know, Tyson King has, and Tyson Fury has like Gypsy King, and Kobe Bryant has like Black Mamba and stuff. You know, you got to have that bit of fuck it switch a little bit. But it's just like keeping that in check as well, you know, because it's like, I think that's why some people create those characters. It's like, because it feels like you can keep it a little bit more in check there, where it's like you can separate yourself from the performer. Yeah, so it's that drive can be like a gift. Like I speak to a few people, it can be a gift and can be a curse as well. Like you think, just this relentless, just pulled to do something, and not everyone can relate to that. But like I think a lot of people I work with have got like just want to spin all the plates and want to do everything, want to micromanage, want to like just, and then, you know, it's like left and check, you can burn yourself out or overwhelm yourself. And I've had that at certain times where you kind of just like just taking too much on and just trying to prove yourself and trying to like just, it's a weird one. Like sometimes it's like this is not me. I got this and it's a really good analogy. It's like quitting for me is like when you know you're equipped fully to do something and you step away. You know, you go into a battle and you're like, I've got all the arm, I've got everything here now I need, and then you kind of just, you know, you have maybe a little bit of a stumble or and then you quit. But at certain times, you know, retreating is a good tactic. You know, if you feel like, oh, I'm in a situation here, or like I've took on too much too soon, or like, oh, this is the ego here, where I'm just like, you know, I've been in the past where I've been in a situation where like, at work, like I'm trying to prove myself, and just like, I can do this, I can do that, and then suddenly you're in a situation like, I've took too much on. Like, for me, that's not quitting, that's retreating, to be able to go, you know what, I need to retreat here. It's not like quitting, I'm going to come again with a different tactic, in a different like field or whatever. But I probably see a lot, you know, if I'm being honest, there's probably a lot of people who do quit. I think there is that element of like bringing that masculine energy and that female energy in terms of certain times that quit, you do need that, like, you do need that. I'm not saying like a toughen up attitude, but life can be challenging, you know, like it's going to be painful at times, and, you know, it's going to like hurt and stuff. So that's where the resilience comes, of like leaning into those edges, but not like getting tied up in stories and the mind does. It's just like you can watch the mind, like, and just still lean into it a little bit, but then have that ability to be gentle with yourself at certain times as well. It's like I come from the side where it's like, you know, background. I was working with like a rugby player today. Like he's finished playing, and he's going like, yeah, it's just like that driven, like I'm trying to get out of that kind of like driven, just robotic, like just like a machine, like identity, to more that like, I want to say like more the feminine energy, more like the compassionate, more the just the joyful, and just it's. I think you need to like to integrate both. You need a bit of both. I think, you know, like you need a bit of that, like that discipline, I see it sometimes as just like being fluid within structure sometimes, it's like having that structure and that discipline, but having that playfulness as well, and that ability certain times just to go like, it's, a lot of people are just like looking at what I haven't done and what I need to do more of this and stuff. It's like, the ego operates from a sense of lack in the first place, so you're never going to fill that. You're always going to have that part. As it's how we grow, I suppose, as well as like, where people just like on to the next thing, and that's part of life. And anyone who anyone who pushes boundaries has got that kind of ability to just go like, oh no, I'm just going to push and push. But it's weird, that doesn't always equate to being at peace and being kind of joyful, really. It's like, it's weird. It's like that's what I said, it's going to be a gift and a curse. And but I do think, like, there's more athletes now. Just the more you can kind of approach your career is like looking at like it's developing me as a person as well. It's not just about the mechanics of just winning the trophies, because those moments are fleeting. They come and go, and they're never as you get a dopamine hit, you get a dopamine crash. They're never going to bring you what you expect. I've had it, my dream was when I was younger to play for Man United, and I kind of signed for them when I was younger, and it felt like an anti-climax, because you've got this moment where you think, oh, it's just going to be like this moment, and then life carries on. It's like, it's like it's going to wear off, and then you have the fears of like, oh, I want to let my parents down and all that stuff. And I think Sam Warburton as well, I think I'm sure he said someplace like he had the Lions cap as a captain. Obviously, he's dreamed about that moment as a kid, and you get it, but you've got this, it's like we're bad at predicting what it's going to bring us. So like, we're just going to have this moment, and it's just going to it's like going to freeze in time. But it's like, I think a lot of that comes from, like, when you see films and stuff, and they finish, don't they? They finish usually on a happy ending. Yeah. It's like got like the nice result, resolution or whatever in the film, and like life it carries on. It's like, so the end point's the same for all of us, but but that's why sometimes it's like, I know it can turn into a bit of a cliche, but that's why it is more about like enjoying the processes, because those end moments are very fleeting, and like I say, I think I work with, it's weird when I work with younger guys, and they're not talking about like giving something back or anything like that. They just want to get there and and max out their potential and stuff. But I think there's an element of, like, when I'm working with kind of older people, there's an element of like, there needs to be more. Like, I've achieved a lot of stuff like individually, and it's like I want to give something back. Or it's weird sometimes, like when you give a lot, you feel better for it, like, and that's not, but the problem is sometimes people, like, I've had this before, like, people will give and expect something back. It's like, and I'm like, oh, why should they give you something back? They didn't ask for you to give something to them. Yeah. But it's like it's like a good sign of ego is like, can you do like a good deed and not tell a soul about it? When you do something good and you're like, to tell someone about it. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's like having that awareness. Or like, it's like sometimes, like when I know how they are, go and post something like, why am I really posting this? Oh yeah, because I need to expand my network or whatever. And like, I'm really looking at the likes. Yeah, it is, but it's like, it's not like trying to. I think more you kind of have that awareness of what's driving it, it kind of loosens its hold on you. You know, you kind of like, you know, you can take that responsibility then because you're aware of it. You know, it's like you got to take responsibility for what you're aware of. Like a lot of people are, you know, are in auto mode and they're not aware of really what's driving their behaviour. You know, if you're like a psychopath or something, like life's pretty easy because you're not. You're trampling over everyone, especially narcissistic as well. But it's like that's why you probably can get to the top a lot because you've got that ruthlessness because you're not empathetic. You know, it's like there's probably a lot of psychopaths. You know, when you say psychopaths, that can be skill in a lot of situations where you know if you're you can be very detached and non-emotional and stuff, but yeah, definitely not on the psychopaths. I'm too empathetic.
Yeah, and again, there's so many points there, and it's, you know, we could pick off different ones. And spinning too many plates is definitely something that I've had a conversation with a colleague the other week, which I certainly stole off you, and they were talking about doing a lot of stuff. I was like, oh, speaking to someone, spinning a lot of plates, and we sort of had that reflective conversation about how we can move forward, and then, you know, sometimes direction and external circumstances can drive us, and then we end up into that auto drive mode, and then we're in that sort of context where we might not want to be, and it can be anticlimax at times. And I can look back and go, do you know what? Because of the situation I was in, head down, relentless, ruthless, sort of driven in terms of not having a bigger picture, it ended up leading to me getting a good job, but a job which I didn't expect to find myself in because of the experiences that I had. That sort of led me sort of landing upon it, and then suddenly I was pushed into a youth work degree, which is something that I didn't really want to do, and I was going, do you know what, I could be here doing a youth work in 3 years' time, but is that where I want to be? So essentially then I had to retreat from that point and go, this is not for me, and move forward. So it's great that you say those things because I can sort of resonate with it and go, I've had those experiences, then seeing where I am now and being able to understand that, I can see it in others and support them. And as you say, anticlimax, I was having a great conversation with someone, and we were talking about an assistant head, fantastic assistant head, very young, already looking for deputy head jobs. And then I said, oh, he's going to be a young head teacher. And they came back with, well, won't that be too much too soon? And then that sort of landed with me. And it's a question that I still reflect on because, it's great that you say anticlimax because it's true. Because he might get to being a head teacher and do a great job, but then he goes, oh, is this it? Have I done this too quickly? I've missed out on here and now in enjoying being an assistant head and delving in terms of everything that I manage and going to get to that point. And then you're going to be head and be like, do you know what? I miss being at that point because as much as we progress, and that's why I love talking to a lot of coaches, is they've sort of retreated from being a head coach back to an assistant coach because they're like, I can actually get back and do this stuff with the players. I can get back to doing what I love because as much as head coach might be the goal and the objective, it's taken away from what I actually love. And that's such an interesting concept to have then.
Yeah, it's a weird one. It's like, you know, it's like this automatic thing of like, you've got to go for the promotion. But then you could go for a promotion and then the job that you're going for, you're not doing a lot of the stuff that you love, so you might have more money and stuff, but then you might be bringing on skills, like a lot of leadership skills. It might not rock your boat. You might like not be doing the technical side of your job and stuff. And it's like, I think there's an element of like, you know, I have to have a little bit of impatience in terms of like, you know, we've got this amount of time people waste on stuff, trivial stuff in life. So there's that impatience, but yeah, it's that patience of like really developing your craft. And I think maybe that's what the culture we're in sometimes is why everyone wants, you know, to be famous straight away, or they want everything. But it can take, you know, if you're really devoted to your craft and stuff, you know, you're in it for the long haul. But then you can be in it for long haul, and you know, I think we live in a world where, you know, you're probably going to have a few different careers throughout your life, doing a few different jobs, and it helps sometimes just to, you know, just to keep learning, and you can you can just recreate, like, you know, like you've had that instance where you kind of like, do you double down on something you like, no, doesn't serve you? You just go, yeah, you might have to take a backward step financially sometimes, but it's just like, but I think sometimes you're like, what's the cost of staying in this position that doesn't serve you? What cost you put on that, as opposed to like the clear financial cost you might see, but it's like, well, what value do you put on? You know, you could be miserable doing something, you're taking out on your kids, you're stressed, you're burning yourself out, and it might not be even doing a job that you truly love. You know, like it might, like, you know, when you're weighing it up, it's like, yeah, you know, I'm in a lot of money, which, you know, obviously, you know, money's part, you know, there's nothing wrong or right within a lot of money, isn't it? It's just how your relationship to it. But it's like, energetically then, it's like, what's the cost of you being miserable, and can you change your attitude to your job? There is a way you can change your attitude and get that joy back in, or, you know, if I'm being honest, I think it's different. Once you've kind of lost your energy for something, you can kind of try and claw it back. Like with me now, like, you know, when I started doing the coaching, I'm working in television, like as a director, and just feel my energy has been pulled to the coaching, and it's like, and you try and claw back, like, I wanted to do this, and I wanted to do this, and like, I don't know what that is. It's just like, can't. And yeah, like I say, a lot of people, you know, double down. And there's, you know, like a lot of people are just, you know, they'll just double down and doing something that doesn't serve them. And but then, you know, you have got considerations in life. You've got your family and stuff. But it's like, I just don't want those moments where you're like, when you know, sometimes I think of like my future self, and I'm like, I don't be looking back and like, oh, I wish I tried it. I kind of knew I wanted to try it, and I didn't, and then I left it too long, and that's where coaching can come in. That's where like someone who's not looking through your lens, like, you know, a coach can just see opportunities and like, yeah, you know, like, just create something else, you know, like, oh, you know, what's stopping you, you know, like, and then, you know, you get that clarity then to be able to make decisions. You know, sometimes, you know, coach them and then they'll stay where they are, or but they've got a new perspective on it, and, you know, they've got that clarity. Doesn't always mean like uprooting and changing everything, but yeah. But you'd be surprised, like with athletes, I mean, like I work with athletes, none of them have got like a mental health issue and stuff, but I think it's underexplored in terms of, you know how it is, like that placebo, like if you, the mind's so powerful, like in terms of like, I remember times like when I play and not had the perfect build up and stuff, and you can't play really well. So you kind of like, oh fuck it, I've got like, no one's expecting me, you know, I've just come back from injury, and you play really well. And there's certain times like where someone's had like the perfect build up, they don't play well because they're like too, I've got like no excuses. It's weird. It's like yeah, it's that mental side of it is huge. I remember like on days where, you know, when I used to play, and like stuff like, you know, if you like mentally just totally with it, totally you feel like you could like take anyone on, you know. And then certain times you kind of just like, oh, just let those little voices dictate and stuff. But you'd be surprised how a lot of players I work with, like they're thinking their way through games. Then you like work with them, and they're like, when I'm not thinking, it just happens. It's a skill. It's the same with anything. It's like it gets a bit loud when playing. Sometimes you had a bad start, and I've got to claw this back, and what's my coach gonna say and stuff. It's just kind of like static. It's just getting in the way of you and your performance and stuff. I think it's you can sit back anytime and like the mind it's going to get loud sometimes, and you just bring your attention. You get your attention out of the head into wherever, into your senses, into focus on something outside of you, and you just that's what you got no decision. You got no decision but to be present. But what I'd say is like it's present moment awareness in terms of like because I think that sometimes when people say like about positive thinking, and sometimes like negative thoughts just come up. It's just like, yeah, you can spend all day like trying to swap a negative thing for a positive thing. But I'd say the most important thing is like what you let into your mind in the first place. Is like, if you surround yourself with people who go, oh God, look at this kind of like doubt and drain, energy suckers kind of thing. You got to have your filter right up high, or you're just going to start, it might start marinating into you. Like, that's why I think it's like what you're feeding into your mind, because it's like that's like what podcasts you listen to, like what books you're reading, what you're watching on TV. Like, are you hanging around with people who you're doing it because you feel obliged, and your circle can change over time. It's like, you don't have to fall out with people. Just certain time, you like you change, don't you? You like circle it. You get interested in different things. Like some of my friends would be like, what's Rhodri doing all this coaching and like all this stuff? It's like, that's a bit weird, isn't it? But I'm like, yeah, it's weird to you, but it likes me,
yeah.
It's and it's like that's life, isn't it? Some people change and stuff. I think this idea of like when people say, oh, people don't change and stuff, that do. You do. I think naturally, just as you get older, you might mature a bit more and you grow up a bit more, and then you kind of like and doing a lot of your conditioning and stuff, and you kind of like, I realise I've been living someone else's life. I've been trying to please everyone else, and like, and that doesn't mean, that can just be a subconscious thing. It's like, when someone's like, I should be doing this, and like, whose voice is in your head? Is it your friends, or is it like an idea? It's like now, it's like, should I be doing cold showers in the morning? Like, you don't have to do cold showers. I'm sure like a lot of your high performers, and maybe there's a few who do cold showers, but I'm sure like, I don't know if Messi's doing cold showers. It might be, but it's like, maybe Messi smokes now and again. He's like, I don't know, it's like, it's I think it's just idea of like, there's one way, like performance is like it's a mystery. It's like where does high performance come from? It's just, there's an element of like, there's an element to letting it come through you in terms of like, you do more practice and stuff, then it's going to come through you a little bit more and stuff. But it's like the ability to kind of let go of stuff. It's like, you've got someone like Messi who's just unbelievably gifted. It's like, that's just like, he's got a gift, and fair play to him. He's made full use out of it over a long period of time. But it's weird. It's like we try and like, it's like, how do I be confident? How do I do? And it's like, like it's this tangible thing. You say to, I'm sure if you went to Messi, like when he's like firing or cylinders going like, oh, Messi, do you feel confident? It wouldn't even be in his head, you know, because you're just fully in the zone and just, how did you score that goal? I don't know. It's like, you know, we want to analyze everything, and it's just like, but then like high performance comes when you kind of just in the moment and you're in the zone. And like I used to have times where I play and I'm like, what is that? When you're in the zone where it's just like I can't remember certain stuff. Like it's just like happening. It's just like not thinking, and then you want to analyze, thinking about your performance. What were you doing at that precise moment? And then then you can start thinking about your performance too much. But don't get me wrong, there's an element of like analysing if you're doing the same kind of like mistake in the same situation repetitively. But a lot of it is like, you know, a lot of it is just getting out your own way a little bit. And I got in my own way a lot, you know. You know, there's times when I was at my best, it was just where you kind of just, I think I said before that fuck it switch where you kind of just let go a little bit. But it's I think it holds a lot of people back. The stories they have, and it's a skill. But it's like when you hear the word like mind or mental, and everyone goes quickly to think about like mental illness, mental health, and it's the same with like, you know, physical side of things. It's you know, it's like it's knowing when you go to the strength and conditioning coach, or knowing when you go to the physio. You know, like strength and conditioning coach isn't going to like sort your torn hamstring out. But then a physio isn't going to refine your, you know, what a strength and conditioning coach can bring. So I think it's similar with the mind, but I think it's still a little bit like, I think it's still even the word like psychologist, it carries it may be less so now, but I think it's just an image of people. It's like, I haven't got a problem, but you have to have a problem. It's just like sometimes it's just like chatting something out with someone. It's like if you just chatted to the wall. I mean, it'd be a bit weird if you did, but if you chatted to the wall for half an hour, part of you feel a bit better for it, because it's just like you voiced it and you can see where you got like, I'm thinking, why am I thinking? I'm thinking that, and there's like, it's like there's a part of you, like observing what's coming out, and like sometimes, like, you know, I'll coach someone and they'd be like, I haven't said too much, and they'd be like, I feel so much, like, yeah, it's clearer now. And I haven't said anything. I haven't said much, you know. It's like, because you're kind of just creating that space, that thinking space, and then you know, it's like you're sorting through your thoughts, and like, that's not so that's it, isn't it? I'm surprised now, like with, you know, with sport, you know, you get all testing for, you know, your strength tests and your speed tests, everything. You know, I think they do it more in like the NBA and stuff, like personality tests and stuff. Like, so, you know, like if you've got like if you've got someone, right, like who's playing, who's like really mentally like very heady, very quick-headed, like they've done a mistake. They've already given themselves, they've already given themselves that row. So like, I have it like, you have like a coach start shouting and does nothing for them. It's not a case of like a coach shouting and again in the shot. It's just like, no, it's just I've already given myself. You know, it's like, and that's the personality side of things. Of like, you know, I know there's a team thing of like you have a bollocking together as a team, but It's weird. Like there's Phil Jackson, right? Like who was I don't know if you've seen The Last Dance, like Chicago Bulls coach.
Some of it.
Yeah, he was like, but he said like with like Michael Jordan is like one of the most competitive, athletes ever lived. And he said like if you wanted to get him work, he'd call him out in front of the rest of the team because he knows that just fueled him. You know, he's just like he'd just take that and run with it. But he said like with someone like Kobe Bryant, because I think he was with Kobe Bryant at the Lakers after coaching there, and he said same drive, like Kobe Bryant used to like. I remember like Kobe Bryant's personal coach said he had to stop him getting up too early. So he was like, he was getting up at like fucking 3:30 in the morning to go and do. Like, no, you need to sleep.
Yeah.
But same drive. I remember like Jordan used to say like he'd get like a call at 2 in the morning, and he'd like Kobe Bryant like running through something with him. He's like, I love it. I love that drive. But anyway, but like you said, but like different personalities. He said like with Kobe, you couldn't call him out in front of everyone else. Take him individually to his room. Same kind of message, but he'd respond more to that. And I think that's the ability to manage is like not about like getting it all about the tactics side. It's just if you feel understood, people want to feel understood. You hear a lot of like players just they moan saying they just want honesty and just someone who just feels like they understand them, and and you can take that like being dropped if you feel like someone truly kind of cares for you and stuff. But it's difficult in that world because like it's such a cutthroat environment, and like you haven't got you probably are longevities. You haven't got that certainty, so it takes that ability just to look above beyond yourself and stuff. But yeah, it's quite a good personality test. Like you'll have those introverts who find it really difficult when they're away on tour and stuff. Not the playing, more than just being around a squad for so long. They need that any time alone to energize and stuff, and then so it's that's part of getting best out of your players is just really understanding how you message and land differently with the different people. It's like I coach people who are very, very different, and it's just like trying to understand like how are they're viewing the world different, and they might be viewing the world differently. We've got access to our own lens, but we forget like someone else might be seeing the world completely different to you, and it's just like trying to meet them where they are rather than where it's like. And I think that's what's difficult sometimes with coaching. It's like it's the same with like playing. It's like when you're coaching us, Mike, and it's like the tendency sometimes like you need to be doing this, you need to be doing that. I like to have it when I'm coaching. So this is what you should be doing. This, but like the moment instead of like but there's something like more empowering when you go. They try and get that realization, and it feels like it comes from them rather than you telling them. But it's difficult like when you say, you need to be doing this and doing that, instead of going like, what do you think you could have done there?
Yeah.
And I think there's always that sense of ownership then, because it's their idea, even if it's like the same idea that you've got in your own head. It's like I think it's more empowering that way, where you kind of like don't tell people what to do all the time. No one likes to be told what to do. Someone might say to you, like if I went to you, Luca, you know what you need to do. You need to get up now at 6 and do an ice bath for 10 minutes, and then do a gratitude practice, and then like you might stick to it, but there's a part of you like I'll be told to do this.
Yeah.
instead of like it feels like organically comes from you.
Yeah, of course.
It's like you could go to a friend and like go like, oh, this is what you should be doing, and then they like kind of zone out, and then 3 months later they come up to you and go, you never guess right, and then they come out with the same thing. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you've been talking, just sitting back and allowing you to take the floor, there's so many different points where I can go this, that, and I'm thinking what I could say here and how this experience relates. And there's so much in there which you said, which is fascinating and something that I can relate to, and I can pull bits away in terms of what I've heard in other podcasts, other stories, and thinking of mindsets and how I now manage people, how I lead them, and taking all that entire dynamic in, because it's not just me that I'm responsible for now. I got a little team, and I got kids that I try to impact every day. I'm coaching myself, and I'm trying to learn on what I'm doing as well, and trying to get that fine balance for me so I can perform at a good level that allows me to impact them and enjoy what I'm doing here for the here and now, whilst maintaining an outlook for the long term as well. But there's so much which you said which I can certainly relate to and go, I've chipped that away, or I've refined that, and I found a pathway that works for me. And one thing that you said really sticks out for me is what you're doing at night or do at certain points, and I'm always conscious of like, right, I've spent too much time watching this Netflix episode. It's only 45 minutes, but I'm like half hour in going, I could be more productive right now. I could be more productive. And that's why some people say to me, why can't you watch football games? So I'm like, that is almost an hour and a half where I feel like, okay, I've watched a game, but I could have done something in an hour and a half. And I really struggle to watch games. So I'm like, that time could be better served to me. And sometimes the same in conversations. I work with a lot of women in the morning, and they like to come in and for their own de-stress levels, they're nattering about what they might have done last night. And I'm like, I can't comprehend listening to it, because it gets into my headspace. I'm like, that's not for me. I was like, I have to keep the door shut. And they were like, you don't engage in the conversation anymore. I was like, because I can't physically let that in to my space. But yeah, there's so many interesting concepts, and we could delve in and I could listen to you talk for hours. But I really appreciate your time, Rhodri. It's 9:30. I'm sure the wife is text you a few times going, how much longer. But again, I've loved talking to you and always have, and it's so much to take away, so many notes. I know I'll listen back, but I am truly appreciative of your time, and it's been a pleasure as always, honestly, true pleasure.
No, I appreciate you for having me on. Great chatting to you.
Absolutely, anytime. But we'll definitely catch up soon again, Rhodri. But I really appreciate it, mate.
Take care.
And you, see you later.